So we're going to talk about preparing clinical research sites for FDA inspections. I will just read a little bit of a disclaimer here, that what we're going to tell you is basically we're going through procedures. We will talk about regulations and the like, but we're giving you information about FDA inspections. However, we're not giving you specific legal advice that you would go to your lawyers at your institution for, but we will give you some best practices. We'll also give you some hints, and we will talk about regulation, but we're not giving specific legal advice. Okay. And again, just go to your own legal counsel when it gets to that point if you need to get some legal advice about an inspection. All right, so our objectives are right up here in terms of recognizing the anatomy of an audit or an inspection. When an audit is performed by a regulatory body like the FDA, we do, be a purist, call it an inspection rather than an audit. And I know we use that term audit interchangeably, whether we're having a sponsor audit or an FDA inspection, but just as a purist, that's the difference. We're going to look at what we need to do to prepare, what the regulations say, what ICH says, and what are the types and the focus of FDA inspections. You know, how do they come up with who they're going to inspect? What do they do? We're going to look at the dynamics of inspection readiness. And that starts right at site selection, when you choose your sites, and then how we prepare sites for the long haul in terms of getting involved with them, doing trials with them. And if we do see that we have a site on board and we've had a site that had some issues, as it's described here as large deficiencies, how are we going to prepare them for an inspection? Hopefully you don't have that situation, but if you do, how do you prepare them? Okay, we're going to also discuss the mission of the FDA BIMO program, which is the BIMO research program, and recognize the timing of the FDA inspection. What is inspection readiness? What about action item resolution? How does that come into play? And what do we do following up after we've had the inspection? Okay, so we're going to actually look at all the steps, the mechanics of the actual audit or inspection, right from soup to nuts. All right, let's start with the anatomy of the FDA inspection. Let's start with our regulation and our guidance. So right in the regulation, it states that the FDA is permitted to perform these particular inspections. It says, if we look at 312, which has to do with the Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations, 312 has to do with drug, 812 would have to do with devices. So it says right there, inspection of investigators' records and reports. An investigator shall, upon request from any properly authorized officer or employee of the FDA at reasonable times, and we're going to discuss what reasonable times are, permit such officer or employee to have access to and copy and verify any records or reports made by the investigator pursuant to the regulation. So that means that our sites really do need to keep their records in very good order and good shape and be able to retrieve them if they're in storage somewhere in a reasonable amount of time, should they ever need them for an inspection. What does ICH says? Well, ICH says something very similar. If we go to the ICH E6, the GCP ICH, Section 4 deals with the investigator. And again, says very similar thing. Upon request of the monitor, auditor, IRB, or regulatory authority, the investigator needs to make available for direct access all the requested trial-related records. And then we go down, and in that same guidance document, the ICH E6, if we look at that Section 8, which is the last section in that particular guidance document, it deals with the essential documents. That whole section, it deals with all the essential documents. It lists the document, what its purpose is, and where it should be filed, whether it should be filed at the sponsor, the sponsor or the site, or both places. And what it states there is that any or all of the documents addressed in this guideline may be subject to and should be available